here's my position that will probably piss off the whole panel. If there's, I think let's say I'm with my girlfriend or wife or whatever, and one of us has to die, she can die. Like there's a bullet, and hypothetical bullet, right? One of us has to take the bullet, she can take the bullet.
You would have to live with that for the rest of your life, though. You know what I'm saying? Like,
hypothetical way.
Like, if you don't care about that, I guess that's your life. But for some people, they just could not live with that. Like, my wife died.
What?
My wife died, and I'm still alive. My child died, and I'm still alive. Like, I'm still in this world. I still have the audacity to, like, go and live my life and, like, stuff like that. But the people who I love most in my life, who I made a commitment to like that, they died at the, like, to save me, and I'm still alive. If
so
you're fine
saying
with living with that.
I would have bad feelings.
Do you have a kid?
No.
It's not about feelings exactly. It's also how people who know you see you. You're like a public figure. It's how everyone would see you, how you would go down in your history.
Well, I think it's actually, I'll go down in history as being incredibly honest, because most people would virtue signal on this point, but when they're in the actual heat of the moment, and like a lot of people would virtue say, oh yeah, I would sacrifice my life for my girlfriend or wife or whatever. I think most men are actually honest when they say that, but there's probably a cohort of men who will virtue signal and say, yeah, I'd be willing to sacrifice my life for my girlfriend. But like, for example, Andrew Tate, he says, oh, it's my duty. The reason that I get to have this traditional dynamic with women where they're like doing all the XYZ things for me and I'm going to be dominant, they're going to be submissive, is because I'm going to be willing to protect her. And if that means potentially dying for her, then that's why the woman should be submissive. That's one. He probably has other arguments too. I actually don't believe him. Andrew Tate has multiple women. Like he's a unidirectional they're all exclusive to him, but he sees multiple women, right? I'm confident that he would sacrifice any of his women to continue living. Like it's a total virtue signal.
Maybe not his favorite one.
Did I say Andrew Wilson?
No, you said Andrew.
I said Andrew Tate. Okay. Yes, Andrew Tate would not sacrifice his life for one of his many girlfriends. So
he claims it's his job to protect. Therefore, in order to protect, that requires the authority to protect. I'm not saying I agree with them.
Yeah.
But do you plan to have multiple girls or just one?
No, but I'm saying that what I am saying is that I think I would believe a majority of men who say they'd be willing to die for their wife in this sort of hypothetical scenario. But I think there is a cohort of men who will virtue signal and lie about it.
For sure.
But they wouldn't. I'm just willing to say, no, I would not be willing to take a bullet for my wife or girlfriend.
But there's also men who say that and they actually mean it. And don't you think it would make your girl want to be more submissive to you if she knew that you would take your...
So you're saying I should lie?
No, not lie. Actually mean it.
Oh, so just change my worldview.
Want to die.
Yeah, but I'm just not. Because, like I'm just not. Why?
But one day you might have a kid, and I've experienced this.
Sure.
And when you have a kid, it changes, and you will, and suddenly you'll feel that, and you're like, "Whoa, I would give myself for someone else."
So to be clear, like for a child, yes.
Degree of separation.
For the child, yes.
So it's
wife, nah.
What if she's pregnant?
Huh?
What if she's pregnant?
Oh, we're gonna get into a fucking abortion now. Nah.
You wouldn't save her life if because that's your child too. You know what I'm saying?
It makes it more complicated. How far along?
Oh gosh, she's 8 months.
You conceive the child.
A life is a life, no matter what part in the womb.
What's that?
A life is a human life.
Well, it starts at conception. I agree with that, but I suppose it would have like some.
She's 2 days pregnant.
Oh yeah, she can take the bullet.
4 months. Where does it start where now it's like, okay, this is my child?
I'm not saying it's, so I'm going to go ahead for the sake of, I'm going to go ahead and grant that life begins at conception. So
yes.
she literally, the sperm implants or whatever the fuck, she can, still take the bullet from that point on.
At what point does that change?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, where do you draw the line?
Just to be clear, that I'm not making or taking a position on abortion by saying this, but like the head's popping out, like, and the doctor just goes crazy. He's like, I'm gonna fucking stab your baby. I'll be like, ugh, and just jump in front of the knife or some shit. I don't know. Some crazy chicks in the fucking operating room with us. I don't know.
But you were
your baby.
you were saying in the future though, if you had a kid and it was you or the kid who had to die, would you die for your child?
Yeah, for my kid, yes.
Just not for your wife.
Yeah, because I could just get another wife.
Okay.
Just not for your pregnant wife who's pregnant with your twin sons.
Twin sons?
Twin sons.
Twin sons.
Oh gosh.
Triplets.
Ah, man. It's
really
hard.
fine.
It's hard. I don't know. I would do as much as I can. This is like the Jordan Peterson cop-out. I would do as much as I could to not be in that situation.
I would never be in that situation.
I've made so many mistakes.
By that point.
So many mistakes. I would just, do everything in my power to not be in that position.
Would you want your wife to die for you?
Would I want her to die for me?
She wants
Sure, that'd be, yes. That's a ride or die. Like,
But you're
third
not
date.
about the ride or die.
Too. She's probably
You're
lying
not a
about
ride
it
or
too.
No, I don't want to be ride or die. She has to be ride or die.
Why does she owe you that loyalty then if you're not going to owe that loyalty
Because
back to
I
her?
believe in unfair dynamics.
Okay. A bit feminine.
I don't believe in
Brian.
fairness. What's that?
It's a bit feminine of you.
How's that feminine? Wait, hold on. Let me.
You want her
people
to die
say,
for
look,
you.
look, hold. Go ahead, say that shit. Felicity.
You want her to die for you, but you won't die for her.
Of course.
You want her to want to die for you.
But here's the thing. I don't want to die for her. Well, I wouldn't not date her. But if she's like, Brian, I accept that you will not take a bullet for me. I love you so much. I'll take a bullet for you. Hell, why would I not?
But what if
why
she's
would I not
like,
deal
I
with
won't
her?
do it? Is that
I don't
something-
care. Most women wouldn't anyways.
So it doesn't determine like how if you date her or not. If she take a bullet for you or not. It's not a deal breaker is what you're saying.
No, if she
wouldn't.
was like not willing to take a bullet for me, I wouldn't. Because I don't think men look to women to be protectors.
Of course not.
So if she's like, I wouldn't take a bullet for you. I'd be like, okay, it's better if you would, but I don't care.
Yeah.
It's better if you would. But look, here, I'll say it like this because I get attacked for this position. Brian, you're so feminine. Felicity, thank you. You're such a feminine man. You're a beta male. You're a beta male, Brian, for refusing to die for a woman. But if we look back at some historical, some men in history, I don't think we would categorize them as betas. And these men would undoubtedly sacrifice women for themselves. Genghis Khan had hundreds of concubines and wives. If he was presented with this hypothetical, Mr. Genghis Khan, you currently have, he doesn't even know the name of like half his wives and shit. He doesn't even know the names of them.
You're not
You
Genghis
think
Khan,
Genghis
though.
Khan, I know, hold on, I know, I'm working on it now. You think Genghis Khan is going to be like, well, I'm the leader of like Mongolia and I've conquered all this land, blah, 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 and I've got like, you're replaceable and I've got 1 million wives, and he's going to like get rid of the wife before he gets rid of himself. Genghis Khan was an alpha male.
But that makes sense.
Genghis Khan,
but the
we
example-
can't say he's a beta male.
No.
But the example that you're using is that this man, just like with Andrew Tate, this man, women are disposable to him because he has multiple partners, correct? Wouldn't it be different? Wouldn't you argue that it could be different if you just commit yourself to one person? This is
Well, yeah, but then that would,
because you haven't thrown out a scenario yet where it's just given an example of another individual who has committed themselves to one person. It's only
Sure.
been multiple women,
well,
which that would make women less valuable to that man, wouldn't you think? He wouldn't value them as much because he has so many of them.
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree with you that men who like have multiple. Wait, hold on. So, the women are less valuable than him? Is what you're
No,
saying?
what I'm saying is
Or-
that because he has so many wives or so many partners, he doesn't value them. He doesn't hold them to a.
No, I
a
think you
value
can
that
still
the
value
standard,
them.
The standard. Not as highly, though. I don't think he values them as you
I
would
see
if you
what
were
you're
in a
saying.
committed relationship, just one-on-one. The
Sure.
respect that you have for that one person, like how OnlyFans or corn stars, rather, you know how
okay.
they,
I see
they
what
don't,
you're saying.
you know what I mean?
I mean, I would agree with, I don't think I disagree. So, okay, a man who has one wife is going to value that one wife more than a man who has like 4 wives is going to like, value. He's probably going to have less value.
He's going to say, he's going to say, oh, this one can go, I'll get more. They're disposable if he has multiple. But if it's just one, if he has the mindset for that, committed to one woman, he'll think differently. He won't see women as easily disposable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree that if you have one of a thing, you're probably more likely to value the one of the thing that you have.
Mm-hmm. So if you have one wife, you wouldn't take the bullet for her?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm just, the reason I brought up Genghis Khan was because of the criticisms of it's very feminine or beta to be unwilling to die for a woman. But I guess it's like very extreme examples, like looking at these examples of like, okay, I don't think you would categorize Genghis Khan, who would, I mean, look, we probably don't have historical records if he's, we know enough about him to probably make a reasonable determination that he would not sacrifice himself for one of his like concubines or wives.
Well, that was my point.
He probably fucking killed some of them.
My point was that you would want her to want to die for you. That's why I said that's kind of feminine of you, because you're like, I'm not going to die, but she can die for me, and I would want that.
I suppose it would be self-serving to have a woman who would be like, wouldn't that be better to have a woman who's willing to die for you?
Sure.
Because that would mean that, like, let's say there's a bullet, boom. Maybe we both dodge it, but if she's 100% going to take it for me, why would I not want?
But you said even if she's pregnant, like, really? Man,
bro, why you guys got to try to get me in a trap with the abortion thing, basically?
What if she has a really big labia, Brian?
Nope.
Wow.
Nope.
So feminine of you.
I don't think it's feminine.
I'm just kidding.
I actually think in a lot of ways it would be I don't know if it's maybe neither feminine nor masculine, but I think it's more cutthroat, this desire to want to preserve your own life.
I think I use the word feminine because it's like wanting to be protected.
No, it's not that I want to be protected. It's unwillingness on my part to, I don't want to die for a woman.
So the desire is to be cutthroat?
I don't know if it's necessarily cutthroat, but...
Can you just say that?
Don't you say like men have duties, women have duties, stuff like that? You say that?
Yeah, I think, sure.
So what's the man's duty?
To women or to society?
To women in a relationship.
Yeah, sure. Provide and protect.
Okay, so wouldn't it be protecting if you are willing to take a bullet for her? Wouldn't that be protecting?
Yes, it would be protecting, but there are, for example, you would agree that it would be providing to become a trillionaire, and like that would be the ultimate manifestation of providing for a woman to become a billionaire.
If you're spending that money on your family, yeah.
But like, for example, let's say I want to have like a good work-life balance, and I could make an extra $100,000 a year if I work overtime, but I choose to not work overtime. That would be like a rejection of my role as a provider to some degree.
Are you still able to provide for your
yeah, still, but it would be,
providing,
it would be, I would still, there would be a baseline of provisioning, but I could provide more. Similarly, there would be a baseline of protection, and the extreme of protection would be sacrificing your life for your wife. So in the event of a house invasion, I'm going to get my gun and try to dispatch the home invader. But like in a extreme hypothetical scenario where it's like one of you has to die, she can die.
You're saying you would take on the home intruder. You would take on the home intruder instead of your wife. So you would put your life at a risk for your girl that you love.
But there's a component of I'm also my own life is at risk if there's a home intruder.
Yeah.
But you're saying,
but a component of that would be I'm by extension also protecting my children and my wife.
What if you don't have children?
then yeah, I'm also protecting my wife, but I'm also protecting me. I'm not just going to be a little pussy if there's a home invader and just be like, oh, honey, you go deal with it. No,
okay, but
I'm going to get my gun and I'll deal with it.
But you would be that way if there's that situation where one of your lives is getting taken. You would be that little P word and like, okay, you can take the bullet, honey.
Yes, that's what I've been saying for the past 30 minutes.
Okay, that doesn't make sense because in one situation you're like, yes, I'm taking on this intruder that could kill me. In the other one, you're like, no, honey, you take on the bullet that will kill you.
So as soon as it's guaranteed that you're dying, you're immediately just like, nope, that's all you. But if it's like up in the air, a coin flip, you have a chance to fight it off. You will defend your base.
It's the hypothetical, right? Like if you look at the trolley problem or the trolley dilemma, for example, in what world is anybody ever going to literally have like you're all of a sudden like on a train track and you can pull a lever and you can divert it to kill one person instead of 5. This is never going to happen. It's just a hypothetical situation.
Well, wouldn't you argue that getting shot or being faced with a bullet is more likely than that scenario of being tied down to a trolley, to a train tracks?
Yeah, sure. The hypothetical, yeah, sure, that's more likely to happen. But I mean, the scenario where it's like one person has to move in front of the bullet and to block that, I mean,
it's not
that's
realistic with timing, considering how
I don't
fast
think
bullets
that's
move.
really.
That's why we use the Titanic example.
What would you do, Warren? You gonna get on the lifeboat, or what are you gonna do?
Acknowledging that many people will say that they would, and there's no way to know it. I'm going to say I would, though. Because, yes.
You would get on the lifeboat, or you'd stay on
sorry. I would not.
You'd stay on the Titanic and sink. Okay. I don't have external to me pushback for anybody who would choose to do that. Aside from like, I think it is a sad state of affairs that
I believe in a higher power as well, though. So I believe how you live. It's not just what you do, but how you do it in a way that's more profound than we can even articulate and understand.
Let me ask you a follow-up question, Warren. Mm-hmm. How do you categorize yourself politically? Are you conservative, moderate, liberal?
I don't know. I'll pull a Peterson on that. So on some things, I'm probably more conservative.
Okay. So let's say your Titanic situation. You could choose, like, person A, you can opt to take person A's seat, only that person's seat on the life preserver. You know person A's seat, this person is completely ideologically opposed to you, and you know they're a bad person, and they're also a child abuser. Under that circumstance, do you take their seat?
It's not about that.
By the way, that was a ridiculous.
I think your point, though.
Yeah, but would you do it in that circumstance?
Person, it's, as someone mentioned, the legacy how your grandchildren view you, how history views you, how a higher power views you, how everyone on that lifeboat views you. It's not about the person whose seat you're taking so that they can die because they're a child abuser. It's about something much deeper than that.
It's so that your relatives...
The guys who stormed Normandy, it wasn't about an individual, it's about something much larger that I think is deeply ingrained within them that caused them to be willing to do that, and we can't grapple with that today in the same way because we've kind of lost that wisdom.
So this is where I struggle with the Normandy example, though, is that certainly there were many, many veterans in World War II who were exceptionally brave and noble. But I do wonder that there are probably also, I wonder if there's some degree of, the words evading me, of storytelling that goes on when it comes to the sacrifices of young men related to like the Normandy landing or like other military conflicts. Like the actual process that like, I don't know if like during say somebody was shot during the Normandy landing and then they like live for another like 30 minutes and they're bleeding out and they're dying. I'm not sure if like what's going through their head in that moment is like I'm doing this for my country. Like I have this sense of pride, like glory. Like I don't think in that moment they're like glory. No. I think they're like calling out for their mothers, and they're like, oh my God, I'm coming from fucking Nebraska, and I had like Betty Sue.
I don't disagree with you.
And now I'm in fucking.
What's your point, though?
My point is that we perhaps romanticize the glory of war, and I do think there's plenty of men who are brave and they go out fucking guns blazing, and that's badass. But I think like probably the majority of men who die in war, it's like cold and alone in some trench in a foreign territory or whatever it is.
I agree.
And it's not glamorous, and there's no glory, and or they're not even, they're literally just, they're fucking smoking a cigarette, they're eating their ration, and like fucking a shell just implodes their face and they're dead instantly, and there's not even a thought process of like glory or anything. Like their sacrifice to the country, that should be respected, but in that moment, on the individual level, I don't know. I don't see it.
I think you're right. Yeah, if a bomb lands on your head, you're not going to think about much in that moment. Brigadier Nicholson, for example, at Dunkirk, they said draw the fire, they gave that command knowing 13,000 men were committing suicide. Mm-hmm. Had they not done that, they would not have been able to save 300,000. They have lost almost their entire army. Mm. Was that the right call? Was it? You said World War? This is World War II. Dunkirk. World War II. Churchill made the order to Brigadier Nicholson.
Okay. Yeah. So wait, what's the question?
Basically, you sacrifice the few to save the many, is what he's asking. Would you do that?
13,000 men to draw the German fire away so that they could pull 300,000 men off the beach and save their entire army.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's a component of masculinity where it's like...
That's not what I'm talking about.
Well, where you're like sacrificing... Well, she was making the point
of... There's one right move on the chessboard.
Yeah.
You don't make this move, you lose your army.
Oh, you lose your entire army.
Their minds when the bomb...
Sure, okay. Well, now we're getting away from the Titanic example, though.
Well, what leads men to be willing to take part in such an endeavor?
What leads them? You tell me.
I mean, this is a more philosophical question. That's why that goes back to the Titanic example.
Sure.
The same thing that would motivate you to not do what you're proposing.
But like the men who died on the Titanic,
why do you think they
are
did
they
that?
like?
But why do you think they didn't get on the lifeboats and they just stood
there's
there?
Not like a Titanic men's remembrance. Maybe there is.
Exactly,
I don't fucking know. There's not. Their sacrifice. Whereas we have like Memorial Day, we have veterans. Soldiers tend to be, have holidays dedicated to them. But like just a dude on the Titanic, it's like.
So you only do it if there's like...
Here, make a compelling argument for why I should not.
They're honored within their family. Within their family, like
how?
This is my grandfather who died on the Titanic for my grandma. Like that's what matters to them.
Yeah, but like
their children.
At what point does okay? Let's say you're the main provider for your family and you're on the Titanic, and I know if I die on the Titanic. Just by virtue of my death, that's going to be extremely alarming to my wife. Let's say I have kids, I have parents, I have siblings. That's going to be really hurtful to them. And then let's say I'm the main provider too. My children are going to grow up potentially in poverty. My wife is going to grow up struggling. So I don't know if the trade-off of, wow, my family is going to be like, wow, he was so honorable. Like I'm looking at it from, I don't know if it's more of a utilitarian perspective. Me remaining alive is going to serve a greater purpose to my family. It's going to avoid
I get your point.
It's going to avoid the pain and suffering that they deal with as it relates to just my death. And then like I'm going to be gone, can't provide for my kids and family. The exchange would be, but if I do die and all those bad things also happen, they will feel a sense of like, wow, my father died with honor. Fuck honor.
But if
I'm going to survive. I'm going to do what it takes to survive for my family.
But that's why they're not checking, okay, how indispensable are you to your family before we let you on this boat? It doesn't matter if you're upper class, middle class, poor. Mm-hmm. All the men do the same thing.
Right.
Because that's what we do.
What we do. Well, I would just reject that.
We have to.
We have to. Why do we have to?
Going back to Brigadier Nicholson. What's the right move?
But I think it's unfair to say, like, okay.
They had to.
But let me ask you, Warren, let's say you were...
I wouldn't want to. I get your point.
No, you wouldn't want to, but you would do it regardless, right?
I would not want to risk. I would not want to throw away. What's the point? It's a deeper, it sounds crazy. No, it's just, I wouldn't.
To survive. It's a biological imperative.
I wouldn't be able to live with myself.
If you let your girl die, then who are you going to provide for?
I would probably commit suicide, like the guy at the end of the movie.
Warren, you wouldn't. Wait, what happened in the movie?
He shoots himself.
Oh, because he was like, oh my God, people think I'm a pussy because I survived? Fuck them.
I think it's deeper than that. I don't think we can really understand the human soul in this way, really. It eats away at us. And maybe it's because I believe in a higher power. I think that evil is not a social construct. It exists, and it can creep in.
Wait, you think it would be
intentions? And often we can logic our way into bad decisions. Because it's when illogical behavior saves you, is what is intriguing. And that's where spirituality for me lies. It's the only explanation. So we were talking about with Brigadier Nicholson, but Churchill saying, no, we're going to fight to the last man, only when the last one's choking their own blood, which is not logical. Everyone around them is saying, do the logical move. They're making your argument. What's the point of going down fighting when we can appease with Hitler, surrender, and live? And he said, it's better to die defending the temples of your ancestors. That will allow your forebears to rise again one day.
But I think the calculus here is a little bit different, because if we're looking, if I take somebody else's seat in the life preserver on the Titanic, only it's one life to one life. Whereas I don't know if it's a totally fair comparison or equivocal to say, okay, well, if we sacrifice 10,000 soldiers to save hundreds of thousands of soldiers, that's something commonly done in warfare, where it's like, well, okay.
It wouldn't be one life, though, because it's all the men don't do it unless you're the only one. And that's what makes you lose your legacy.
Wait, all the men?
The men voluntarily stay back, except the one who doesn't. And that's why all the women sit there and stare at him. And it destroys.
I mean, I'm very much okay with women giving me oh my God, I'm okay. I'm not, but I would not. Social pressure or disapproval, women's disapproval, is not going to be sufficient enough for me to be willing to die because of women's disapproval.
I was using that as
I know
an example of it's much deeper than just the women on the lifeboat looking at you.
You mentioned the word evil, though. Do you think it's evil for a man to get on the life preserver instead of a woman?
In that case, to be logically consistent, I was trying to make the point of it's easy to logic your way into evil. I'm not sure. It is self-preservation, and it's unfair, but it's. So I'm not sure if evil would be the right word for it, but I think it goes against something deeper. I bring in the idea of the kids. What if your kids were on shore, and they would know? That would be enough for me. And if that would be enough for you, then it shows you the magnitude of that decision about this is something deeper, even if you don't have kids.
Oh, yeah. I would be prepared, though, to say, and if my position isn't clear, even if I had nobody in my life, I would still take that option.
You'd be more likely if you had no one in your life. That's my point.
To what?
If you did have kids, and they were and you would come home to them, and they would know, and that would be your legacy. It would go down, let's just for the thought experiment, it would go down into history, and then you'd be in this movie in 2012 or whatever, and they're depicting you on screen, and that's how you're going to be remembered. You're saying it doesn't matter to you, and I can understand that. That's a logical argument. Why would you're dead? Who cares?
Oh, okay. Wait, so you're saying but when I'm still alive.
I would care is what I'm saying. And in that moment, that would make me take a different course of action.
So just to be clear, when I say I don't, it could very well be the case, being labeled a coward, that would bring some degree of shame. It's not that I'm saying that there wouldn't potentially be guilt or shame, but I think my desire to, like, say I have a family, right? My desire to survive for the benefit of my family, and then also, I'm not going to virtue signal, the benefit of myself and self-preservation. I am willing, in terms of the calculus of, the comparison of all factors, the totality of all the circumstances, survive, but like have shame. I would rather survive and have shame than die and go out doing the honorable thing, if that makes sense.
No, I get your position. We're kind of repeating it now.
Yeah. And even like, I would also frame it to my kids, like, there could be social pressure impacting my kids, like, whoa, your dad wasn't willing to die. I'd be like, you might think that, but also I'm still here now, and your guys' life would be way more fucked up if I still wasn't alive. So to me, it's like, to the benefit of the family, to the benefit of myself. And that supersedes the external social pressure, social shame, social guilt. And and I reject the disposability of males. So it's just, I think it's a pretty coherent worldview.
I agree with you. Males should not be disposable.
But I mean, within your worldview, aren't they?
No, we're taking a specific hypothetical, whether it's Brigadier Nicholson or the Titanic, and saying, if you were in this horrific situation, what is the least bad course of action?
To the mic if you can.
That doesn't mean I think men are disposable. Like, I can't just go.
Just to be clear, I don't think they're disposable, but I think society thinks men are disposable under both Then
we go back to the Russian example of like, okay, if we are invaded, what do we do? Like, because it's utility.
Well, so I want to explore that a little bit when it comes to duties. And there's actually a chat that came in that will probably